Okay, this talk has kind of morphed, okay, in a quite a significant way, okay? This talk was originally around AI for SREs and the replacement for SREs. It's kind of softened a little bit, okay, because of a number of reasons. Firstly, I put the submission in November. And secondly, 2 weeks ago, we threw away our entire product. Okay, literally threw away the entire product. No, it's not because the product was bad. The core loop that we cared about was the agentic CI, like CLI loop, okay? It was the right loop for us, and the SaaS product that we had with it was not, so we got rid of it all, and we like focused, and we like brought it away. And this talk is around what we've built, why we've built it, and how we've built it, and the reasoning behind it, okay? So it's a little morphed, but it's in the same vein, and it's called From Runbooks to Models, and it's around AI native operations. Now, I want you to look at this slide for a second. When software development accelerates, operations always has to follow. Now, this is incredibly poignant. We are in the midst of an entire ecosystem shift in the software development part. Hands up, software developers. Hands up, operations, SRE, DevOps people. Okay, so we're in this weird ecosystem, this weird era at this moment in time where if you are a software developer, life is changing quite a lot, okay? You have access to a lot more tools now than you did. You could do things that were a lot easier to do in a lot period of time. Ergo, the fact that I've thrown away my entire product and rebuilt it in 2 weeks. And that's a lot because of what has happened over the last 6 months, okay? Now, 6 months ago, we had a lot of AI fan people, and I call them fan people, okay? And they were, this is being recorded, right? I'll try not to swear. Okay, they were assholes, okay? And I mean that in the nicest possible way, right? They were this sycophantic people who you thought, ah, Jesus, not again, right? And like, as it's gone across for the last 6 months, it has changed in a huge way, right? There's people now who are embracing AI. There's people who are taking advantage of AI in a way that 6 months ago, they used to roll their eyes and say, oh my God, not this person again. Like, get me away from them. And that's what's happening at this moment in time, okay? The acceleration of software delivery is incredible. The amount of lines of code per day, and don't get me wrong, lines of code per day means nothing. It's a stupid metric, but at the same time, it actually means that you can test, you can try, you can go round and round and round as long as you have the money to spend to be able to do it. Okay, now, this is where it's actually starting to be a little weird, okay, because our operations world is not keeping pace with that, okay? Ops people, I'm sorry to tell you, you are not. I am an ops person. I have been an ops person for 15 years, and if I was actually writing ops tooling every day at this moment in time, I would definitely not be able to keep up with the pace in which software is actually be able to be pushed out the door. But we have seen this before, okay? We had mainframes, went to virtualization. Then we had virtualization, went to the cloud and DevOps. And then we had config management. And then we had infrastructure as code. So it's not new. We are used to this type of ecosystem shift. But this is a cataclysmic shift in comparison to those parts of the world. Okay, and when I say that, I mean it in a huge way. The amount of things that you can tell Claude or ChatGPT or Copilot, always use Claude. I'm joking, that's not sponsored, so it's fine, I don't work for them. But like the amount of things that you can get these tools to do is absolutely incredible. You just heard Philly talk about it, and you saw some of the blog resources that they talk about. The level of effort that they put into these tools is phenomenal. Opus 4.6 came out this week, and it has accelerated the game away in a huge way again. Teams, agent teams came out last week, unbelievable. They put this /fast command in 2 days ago, and that is just churning through tokens, okay, in order to do stuff. So, you know, the time for skepticism in AI has passed, I'm afraid, okay? We are using AI to do a lot of things, and I know people in this room have been burned by AI before. Hands up, who has opened up an AI tool and just told it to build something, and you've looked at the code and thought, Jesus, that's awful. Okay? And we hear this term every single day, and the term is AI slop. Okay? And that's okay. And because we have heard this term, and because we have been bitten by this in the past, we are afraid of it. We are even more afraid of it in the ops world. Gen AI, for infrastructure as code, for Terraform, for Pulumi, for CloudFormation, I almost swore again there, is not good. Okay? Because it's a non-deterministic, it's a probabilistic system that it's going to try and do the things that it believes should be there. Okay? So it thinks that the API should be there. And when you look at the code that it generates, you're like, that's actually really smart, that should be there. And then you look at the AWS API or the Azure API and it's not there. Okay, naming conventions are incorrect. They've moved things into extension functions, all sorts of things. So you know we've all been bitten by it in the past, and therefore we are now in this ecosystem where we worry. We have also been bitten by the fact that we have read where AI has caused massive problems for us. We have probably read things like, the AI deleted my database in production. If you give AI the keys to delete something in production, that's your fault, not AI's, okay? You have to constrain what it does. You have to do it. We've seen it in the past 2 weeks with Maltbot. Okay, anyone not hear of Maltbot? Right? It became like such a huge thing where we had these agents communicating with each other and people taking screenshots and they're like pretending that they're becoming sentient. And we had people like saying, oh, Maltbot actually booked me a flight. It had access to my credit card. You're an idiot for giving it access to your credit card. It's not the LLM's fault. It's going to do the job you tell it to do. And this is the situation. The hype is insufferable. Harm has been done to people in the industry. And I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong. Absolutely not. What I'm here to do is try and show you that there is a breed of tool, there is a breed of working that will stop this from happening and allow you to be quite successful for what we're doing. Something changed in the last 6 months. LLMs really stopped being a novelty. Okay, they stopped being this plaything where you open up ChatGPT and you ask it things like that you would normally ask into Google because it gives you better search results. Or I'm sure we've all asked it medical symptoms. We've tried it just to see what it does, right? And it's no longer this situation. It's just boring now. It just happens. It's in the background. We know they produce great results. We know the LLMs are getting better every single day. Every release, they're getting better. The competition between vendors is pushing them to be better. I was going to refer to a certain tweet by a member of OpenAI last week, but I won't do that because that might be bad on camera. Our frontier models are changing in a huge way, and it's now a case of if you can give it enough tokens, you can make it do lots of things. You can run local models that have 1 billion token context windows if you have a big enough machine. Okay, you can run Sonnet 1 million token context and you very rarely get conversation compact. It's my worst frustrating thing when it comes to LLMs, when you go compacting conversation. You're like, I'll go make a coffee. What's changed here is velocity. That velocity has massive consequences, and when devs teams start shipping faster because of the results that they're getting faster, we as ops people are starting to be the bottleneck. Our tools are the bottleneck. The tools that we use today as ops people were not designed for the speed of the ecosystem in which we live in today. I can say that confidently, okay? Because I'm one of the people who was involved in building those tools for many years. Okay, I worked on Terraform, so I actually worked for HashiCorp on Terraform for 3 years. I then went and led teams at Pulumi, building infrastructure as code there. I worked at Joyent, so I've been in this dev ecosystem building tools for quite a while. And I can tell you, the code I wrote was not that good back then, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, because it was not designed to scale in the way that it needs to scale today. Now, it's okay to be a skeptic. I want you to leave this room that you realize that it's okay, right? You're not going to lose your job. Okay, AI is not coming to eat the world. It's not coming to take over what we're doing. You'll see, as I show you, you need that human in the loop. If you don't, you get horrendous results. So the change in AI is why we're in trouble in the ops world at this moment in time. IAC is in trouble. Okay, it's doing a wonderful, wonderful job. Please don't take that I'm saying that it's not. I've been a huge user. I've built IAC tools, as I said, for a while. But why can I not just point AI at my existing Terraform code base and see what it does? I was at a talk in Belgium last week, okay, where a person actually opened up a local LLM module. A local LLM model. It pointed it at a local instance of his Azure Terraform code base and said, refactor it. Right? I sat there in just horror. And I even put my hand up I was like, so how are you going to review this? What are you going to do? He goes, I'm not going to commit that. I'm like, so what are you doing it for? I want to see what it does. The curiosity got the better of him because he actually wanted to see what it was. But because of the Gen AI aspect of it, because of the hallucinations that it created, he was never going to commit that. So he was just generating tokens and using tokens for no real work. We can write Terraform faster. We don't know if it's the right Terraform. We can write Ansible playbooks faster. We don't know what they're going to do correctly. We can automate kubectl. Don't know why you would want to. Any Kubernetes people in the room? All right. I'm joking. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding. Okay. But like for what most people are doing right now in the ops world, AI is not generally working for them. Okay. And it's okay. Like, and we can admit that. We're friends. We're here to learn. We're here to understand. We're here to share experiences. We have been bitten in the ops world by AI tools. Okay. I'm hoping that we'll get through that, and I'm hoping that we'll get there. Our IAC values are kind of weird. Okay. And when I say they're kind of weird, we kind of think of values in three ways. Okay, we think of architecture, principles, and taste. In the IAC world, we usually spend the time in the bottom two. Okay, when I say that, we use acronyms like DRY, YAGNI, keep it simple. We have taste, where we refactor certain things into Terraform modules. Our naming conventions for modules, our naming conventions for resources, our naming conventions for environments. We spend so long coming up with the principles and taste that the architecture suffers. Let me ask you a question. Who's a Terraform user? Who's willing to partake in the question? Okay. I promise you it's not. There you go. This man right here. Okay. So, in your Terraform code base, how many resources do you have before you split it out into a second module?
Templates inheriting modules.
Jesus.
Yes.
Whoa.
We inherited this beauty, and I'm trying to maintain it because I have to otherwise rewrite the entire bank. So
there you go. Perfect. I couldn't have asked for a better example. I really couldn't. Okay, because somebody made that decision. And the decision has been long lost, and now we just have to maintain it going forward. It's a perfect example of how principles and taste have caused consequences elsewhere. Everybody has a different answer here. Terraform locals, Terraform for each, variable files, levels of modules calling other levels of modules. And this is not a Terraform problem. This is because the tools that were designed that we have today are not able to keep pace for what we're doing as ops people. Now, in the AI world, architecture, which, by the way, was the one that we ignored the most in infrastructure as code, architecture leads to stability. Okay, because if you have a solid architecture and you talk to the AI agent or your LLM and you keep it going, then it will keep to those architecture guidelines and principles. 15 minutes ago, I read a post that said the first 1,000 lines of code in your repository shape the rest of the lifespan of the code for your repository with an AI agent. If you create 1,000 lines of if you create 1,000 lines of slop in advance, then the AI agent will not be able to tell the difference between what is bad code, what is good code, what is poorly architected code, what is poorly abstracted code, and it will keep adding layers of rubbish on top. It's not its fault. You're not giving it the guidelines, you're not giving it the principles that you need. We used to make fun of architects. Any architects in the room? Ivory tower architect? Yes. You're coming back. We're making a comeback. We really are. No, we used to make fun of our ivory tower architects in software. It is. You're right. You're absolutely right. And we used to make fun of these people, okay, because we were like, they just tell us principles and practices and architecture and guidelines. They don't write real code. You know what? Don't need to write real code anymore, friends. You need to understand architecture principles. Because if you understand those architecture principles, you can then start to implement those patterns in your code base. Now, I'm going to break from this a second because I want to show you something based on the back of this. It's important that I show you what I mean here. Where are my? There we go. Hello. Now, this is the repository for the tool that I am building. It is currently private source. It doesn't matter. It will be open source. It's just because we're building it, it's not ready. Okay? One of the things that we have in here is a folder called designs. This is the power of why we can actually produce so much code from what we're doing. Inside that design document, we have all of the designs of the different parts of the system. When I say all of the designs of the different parts of the system, let me show you. This is the design document for cell expressions. Okay? This is basically how you're able to model information across each other where you start to do this style of semantics. Okay? We drew this up as a team. We codified this as a document, and our AI agent is well aware of this design. So when it generates the code for the cell expressions, it adheres to the design. Okay? We also have one other thing, which is one of the most important things in our entire repository. In our Claude MD, we have very anemic code style, just TypeScript, strict mode, blah, blah, blah. But we actually tell it, you must follow domain-driven design principles. You must use the DDD skill. Philly talked about skills. Okay, if you haven't seen skills, there is Vercel, skills. Oh, wrong one. It's like skills.sh, right? There's like 54,000 skills that have been published now that work across different versions of code, okay, different versions of AI agents. So you can pretty much get a skill that fits and does different things in many different ways. But for us, the most important thing is we've codified, you need to use that DDD skill, you need to use this specific library for interactive terminals, you need to use log tape for logging, we need to use JSON for structured output, every command must both log and JSON. We have codified those architecture guidelines and those principles, which allows us to be able to move. Let's go back to what I was doing, what I was talking about. Teams that express strong architecture guidelines to their AI agents get very stable, very coherent code generated. Very stable, very coherent code. In fact, it's code that if I read, it would look like a person wrote it. Sure, it probably has a duplicated method that does the same thing. Do I care? Not really. Because the AI agent will probably see that it has two and it will refactor to do that, or I can instruct it to reuse the different things. Here's the problem. Our IAC code never had these strong patterns. I can give away way too many stories about Terraform providers. All I'll say is if you have a bug with a Terraform provider today, it's probably my code. So I apologize in advance. My name is all over that Terraform AWS repository. and some of it was just what I felt at the time. Has anybody been through when they refactored the AWS S3 bucket and they split it out into multiple providers and multiple resources? Yeah, that's because I didn't forward think and I just threw it all in one resource, right? And that's what it was. There was no architecture, there was no patterns, there was no guiding principle. And this is the situation, right? There's no ability to express these constraints, so the resource must always have the tags, and you have to then bring in policy engines, you have to bring in extra tools to make these things happen. We need something different. We need the automation that needs to be designed for agents as the primary consumer. And when I say that, I mean it's very much a case of we need to think differently in how our tools work for the AI ecosystem, the AI era. I'm going to show a demo. It's probably going to be broken. If it is, doesn't matter. It's not about the actual tool because the tool's not available as a prototype. It even has the name Swamp. Okay, it may stick. We don't know. We just don't know. And it's named Swamp because the 5 letters are the 5 people who are involved in making it. But it's kind of cool because we have a swamp of data and you can pull data out. I mean, we'll see how it goes. So we designed Swamp to do a number of different things. First thing we designed Swamp to do, it's built specifically for agents. And when I say that, I mean every time you initialize a Swamp repo, we ship a number of skills. Okay, those skills are what brings, can you hear me? Okay, all right, I'll hold it up. I've just been lazy, I'm sorry. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. So we ship these skills, okay? These skills are really important. These skills are what takes it from being Claude doing the work to actually formulating that Claude works in combination with the tool. Okay, so we have a skill for data, like it has all of the information. We have a skill how to create models, a skill how to create workflows. We adhere to progressive reveal. If you don't know it, the skill creator is the best skill that you can ever do. So when you actually create skills for your users, if you adhere to that skill, it keeps the context window small, and then it reveals extra data as it actually needs to. But this is the meat. This is the smarts. This is like the pieces that works in combination with the CLI that we're actually building here. So let's have a look at what it actually does. All right, so on the right, I have like on the right, I have a CLI. Thank you for reminding me, it's fine. No, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, honestly. Yeah, it's cool, it's cool. So on the right, I have like a CLI, okay? That CLI allows me to interact with this like little application. This little application has no models. Now, a model in our tool is not the same as an AI model. A model in the tool is a schema that allows you to interact with a piece of real-world infrastructure, okay? So an AWS VPC, an EC2 instance, a subnet, an internet gateway, an instance, all these different things, right? So we kind of map a model one-to-one to the real world, because if you do that, then you get great documentation and the system's actually able to work really well with it. So if I run the command swamp, model, type, look, I even have shell completions, search, you'll see the built-in models. Okay, so we have like a shell model, we have journal cuddle, we have a curl model, I have a CLI model, we have mermaid diagrams, I have wrote some extra, like my own models, okay? And if I have a look at them, you can actually see what it is. So it is a collection of attributes which map to upstream. You then have a schema that comes back from upstream because you need to be able to manipulate the data. And then you have methods that allow you to manipulate it. Now in the infrastructure as code world, you have 4 methods. You have create, you have delete, you have read, and you have update. Okay, you are constrained in a very declarative model. We specifically did not want to go in that way because you will want to build a tool to do a specific thing. Now I wrote these extension models in a way using Claude. Okay, and what I asked it, I will show you my prompt. Da, da. I said, create me the extension models that will allow me to build the following infrastructure. VPC, subnets, both private and public, an internet gateway, and some route tables. I want classic networking. I want multi-step workflows where every resource depends on the previous one, because that's how you build your workflows. You don't want to just say, run a VPC, wait for that to finish, and then go, actually, I want a subnet as well, wait for that to finish, and then go, oh, I need a route table, let's finish that, and then go run the loop. You actually want to give it the smarts and the details there. And then I said, I want the extensions to have create, delete, update, and discover. I want to be able to see what's in my AWS account right now. I want to be able to take action on that AWS account. And of course, execute the models load correctly, right? When I say load correctly, I want the TypeScript to be, it's TypeScript under the hood, so it doesn't really matter. But I want it to work. I don't want you to generate me some crap that doesn't work. I want the code to work as expected. I want the code to adhere to the standards. And what it does is, it loads up this little skill, and this little skill is called the Swamp extension model, and it sort of teaches the system how to do it. It teaches it the reference guide, it teaches it some examples, it teaches it how to build the model, and this is exactly what Philly was adhering to earlier in the last talk, okay? This is what turns it from a, it's just gonna YOLO some shit, into actually building a real model that you can interact with. So then what we can do is we can say, no, don't open that, that's my iPhone. Create me a workflow that creates a VPC and 2 subnets. I never type to my LLM. I am a lazy person. I speak to it. I have voice to speak in using WhisperFlow, best little tool in the world, where I actually tell it what I want to do in plain text. And it even understands my accent. How crazy is that? But what it's actually doing here is, look, I'm helping you create that workflow. But the first thing it did is, I need to load the workflow skill. So we've given it the smarts. We've given it the ability to understand exactly what it's going to do. And then it's going to say, look, let's start searching for the pieces that's there. It's find the VPC, it's find the subnet, it's find the AWS, it's find all these different pieces. And then it's like, look, perfect. Now I'll create that workflow with jobs for creating a VPC and 2 subnets. And it's off writing the plan to be able to do it. Now, sure, I can write infrastructure that will do this, and I can do this in a way that'll work, no problem. I'm showing you the most basic example here. I also wrote a model 30 minutes ago that says, monitor my system health on my laptop. If it exceeds 80%, run Docker prune. And it's running as a cron job on my laptop, and it runs every 10 minutes, and it's actually running Docker prune when it needs to, okay? It is a general automation platform that allows you to be able to do it. We've built GitHub Actions. Write me a GitHub action that deploys this using this specific variable, this specific value. It doesn't matter. What it's about is how to interact with the system fast. Sure, you can download Terraform, AWS VPC module, and crank this out in 5 minutes. No problem. Fill your boots. Easy. Is it maintainable for you? Do you need to know what's in there? Will you trust it? Will you read every line of code that's inside the module? Probably not. But what we're doing here is we're creating this ability where an agent, a human, is in the loop reviewing the system. Notice, I did not tell it, go and create that VPC and subnet, because that would be batshit crazy. What I'm doing is I'm getting it to create the workflow that I am then in control of deploying when I want to deploy it. Very important. I'll show loads more about this stuff. Like, I'm running out of time, like, really badly, but it's okay. It's no issue. Now, there's going to be a bunch of stuff. Tool is the least important part. The tool, what the tool actually does is the most important part. The actual CLI itself is just a CLI tool. The skills and you as a human in the loop is what makes it the smart part of the system. It's what makes it do what it needs to do. Now, this is a very interesting era. This is a very interesting way of working. When you are using an infrastructure as code tool, you kind of depend on the upstream tool to package the changes in the ecosystem, or the SDK, or the API, or whatever that you need. Okay? That is fundamentally one of the problems with the entire IAC ecosystem. Okay? Because you probably move at a different pace. I'm sure there are partners in here of AWS or Azure or whoever who get access to preview systems that is not supported in Terraform or Bicep or Pulumi or CDK or whatever. Okay, so you would have to wait for that to hit mainstream, or you'd have to fork the entire repo, you'd have to add the changes yourself, you have to build the binary, you have to do all this. Okay, you should be in control of what is happening in your world, in your environment, in your ecosystem, and you should be in control of the code that it executes. It is not black box coding anymore. We shouldn't have to work in that world. Now, what does this mean? This means SREs are going to evolve. Okay, I'm not saying because they use this tool. It's just generally the role of SRE must evolve in the AI world. Okay? We can't be woken at 3 a.m. and have to run the same pattern matching crap using grep and JQ and awk and piping stuff through from a CLI. Okay? Don't do that. If there's one thing that you like take away from this talk, is that we probably don't want to do that anymore. Okay? Because it is non-shareable. There is no record of it. Sure, you can like put it into Slack. I ran this command, and I ran this command, and I ran this command. And when I wake up in the morning, I am not going to read any of it. Okay? And you can probably file a GitHub issue that says it's going to do this, and it's going to do this, and it's going to do this. Or you can put it in a shell script, because that's what we love in ops, right? We just hammer shell scripts out that does all sorts of rubbish. This is the situation that we are in. Remember this slide? Architecture leads to stability, vibes leads to chaos. This also applies to the operations world. This is incredibly important because in the software world, people who have leaned into AI in the right way, when I say the right way, I don't mean just vibe coding the hell out of stuff. I mean actually adhering to plans, specifications, understanding what the outputs are going to be rather than caring about the code. They have thrived. Their productivity has gone through the roof. It really has. I'll show you our repo in a second. Now, SREs will be the same. The SREs who lean into this world, who use and take advantage of tools that are designed for this world, will also thrive. We have a joke, okay? We had a joke last week over beers, and I'm going to say it right now. If you don't lean into the world, pig farming looks a great future for everybody, okay? Because we don't know what the future is going to hold for us. We don't know. We're all afraid of our jobs, and we're all worried about it. Like, we are on a real shift of what's happening in the ecosystem here, which means that if we lean into it, you can be part of something incredible. You can shape it incredibly. You can help drive it in a way we don't even know where it's going to go. And if you don't lean into it and help shape it, you're just going to be told how you have to work. This is incredibly interesting. You don't get a chance to be in this part of the ecosystem to do this. For those of us lucky to be around when we moved from physical servers into the cloud, it was phenomenal. DevOps changed it. Config management tools changed it, IAC changed it. We have the chance to do this again. And probably some people are too young that they weren't involved in that. I was. Now, we can actually move from operator to architect. Now, I say that because people keep messaging me, and I'm sorry. Focus. Do not disturb. There we go. The interesting part of operations isn't running the method. It isn't running the CLI. It is not running the commands that like pull data back from the system. The interesting part of operations is architecting your production stack. It's how the data flows. It's what happens when you hit a certain threshold in the application and you have to scale it, you have to do things in a different way. That's fascinating. We should go back to those values, exactly what I said. We're making a comeback, buddy. We're making a comeback. Okay? But like, who ran the command? What the data that came back from the command? Fascinating. The part is is the architecture of the system that comes there. SRE job going forward, you design the methodologies. You design the scripts. You design the workflows. You're no longer just running shell scripts. You're no longer doing different things. You stop being the person who puts RAM in a box. Okay, because that's not the interesting part. You're the person that takes a step back, looks at the whole system holistically, and plans for capacity, understands it. You become less of a doer and a little more of a thinker about how things happen. But you can also go from reactive to proactive. Who loves being woken up in the middle of the night? Oh, there's always, yeah. But like, honestly, nobody does. That 1 week, every 6 weeks, when my pager was there, my wife hated it when it went off in the middle of the night. Used to get kicked, it's just what happens. I mean, nobody likes being woken up. So we should start to be at a situation where we can predict this. We can build workflows, we can build runbooks. We can build native tooling that will react to things. AWS released this at reInvent. They released the autonomous DevOps agent that will sit there and will do stuff on your behalf if you give it the right instructions, the right thing. Now, sure, it's a preview. You probably don't want to run it in production. But at the same time, tools are coming that do this, okay? And you're not going to sit back and be that person that gets woken up anymore. You're going to actually be much more reactive. You're going to like plan stuff. You're going to plan game days. You're going to plan downtime, outage, chaos, fault injections, all these different things that help you understand the system. I don't know about you folks. My days go like the blink of an eye because it's busy, 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 busy work, right? It's the same stuff. It's boring. It just happens. I would love to be able to have time to think about doing other pieces of automation, things that like actually like move the needle on our product and do these things. That's what the AI world is moving us into. But more importantly, we now go from tribal knowledge to encoded knowledge. Okay, there's always that one person. Always one person in an organization who holds the keys to the kingdom and understands all of the context of the system. That bus factor is huge. And they're probably a bit of an asshole because so many people ask them so many different questions and they get asked the same questions again and again and again. They're not necessarily being one. They're fed up of getting that because it interrupts them, it creates this flow, it stops them from doing the things that they want. And what actually happens now is we usually have it in Slack threads. You have it in a wiki, Shutter. That like made me feel weird there. Confluence, like, you create these documents that are so out of date. Like I spent 3 months putting stuff in Notion. I threw it away 2 weeks ago. Broke my heart a little because I spent so long putting stuff in Notion. And what actually happens is, no, it's there. There we go. And what happens when a new person joins the team? How do they get the knowledge of the system? How do they understand what's happening? That's always a fun one, isn't it? When you're told, hey, you have to onboard a new member of staff. You're like, I'm taking the week off. I'm taking the week off. In an AI world, this changes because the system can describe how it works for you. The system can look at the architecture. The system can look at the infrastructure. The system can interrogate it, and it can describe how it works. It'll do a better job than any of us because that's its job. We hate it. Humans are lazy. We inherently are. We will always cut corners. It's not because we're bad people. It's just because it's the way we're wired. We are not computers. We are not machines. So we should make those work for us. Your knowledge becomes durable, discoverable, and executable. It survives change in teams. Bus factors disappear. The world is a better place. So what can we do? How can you get started? What can you go in? I said Monday. Today's not Friday. What can you do tomorrow? What day's tomorrow? Wednesday? Thursday? Thursday. What can you do Thursday? You can go in. I took a 6 a.m. flight. I don't know what's happening. You can audit your run books, okay? Actually, what you should probably do is take your run book and just rip it up and just throw it away, because they're probably out of date. You can think about operational data. What's structured, what's buried, what's in someone's head, how you start to pull that out. You can start with some architecture. Express the architecture of your system. I bet people have architecture documents that are dusty, that have not been dusted off in a long time. You can start to think about how that comes into the world. And then you can start to demand agent native tools. Have typed interfaces. Don't just run shell scripts. Don't run curl. Don't run these different things. Start to actually care about what the system looks like. The future of SRE isn't about being replaced by AI. This is the most important thing that I want you to realize. AI is not coming for your job. The more of you use Claude Code, the more money Anthropic make. They don't want that to go away, okay? No big successful companies want you to stop using their tools. They want you to accelerate using their tools. And the only way that you're going to accelerate using the tools is leaning into them. Once you encode your operational knowledge into specific composable executable models and giving that context to the AI agent, you will force multiply within your organization. Your organization will force multiply for your users. That's what the whole point of DevOps was. Deliver faster, more secure, better products for our users. We are in the precipice of this at this moment in time. Any questions? Now, I pre-prepped questions, okay, because I get a lot of these questions when I lean in. Okay, so user number 1 has asked me, why Swamp? Why not just use Claude directly? I get this 10 times a day. I even got this from somebody within my own team, which is kind of funny. Claude is the AI. Claude Code's the harness that drives the AI. Okay? It drives tools. Claude Code will choose the right tool for the right job. If you tell it to do something, it will write a bash script, or it will run curl, or it'll run AWS CLI. It will manipulate what it has on your system to be able to do the job that you want. It has no guardrails. That's why we give it skills. That's why we have MCP servers. I have so many stories about MCP servers. That was a lot of fun December. But without tools like Swamp that we're building, Claude will just fall back to bash scripts and CLI commands, and it won't have the structure to be able to work within the confines of the system, within your architecture that you need. You can teach it to do that. You can write skills to do that. That's what we're doing. We're writing skills to help it do better things with infrastructure. It'll shell out, it'll parse JSON, and it'll make shit up. Right? It's not its fault. It's an LLM. That's kind of what it does. Okay? Without that typed operational model, you're moving away from architecture and stability back to vibes and chaos. Going back to the story of somebody saying, hey, it deleted my database in production, it's because you didn't give it the right tools to not delete your database in production. Simple as that. Second one, actually, I'll pick a real question. Like before. Okay, how do you prevent your AI from making dangerous changes? One, don't give it all your keys. Definitely don't give it administrator keys. Okay, if you have administrator keys for your cloud in your environment, in your shell, in your environment variables, probably a good thing to take those out. Okay, you need to validate, you need to have policy, you need to have demos and references, and you need to have skills to stop it from doing the things that it doesn't want to do. Any other questions? Oh, a real one. I love it.
Just coming back from the presentation from Philips about evals, what would be your recommendation in regards to evals from the DevOps SRE sides?
Great question. The question is, like coming about environment variables, what's the recommendation? So, evaluation, sorry. Okay, so, okay, great question. Okay, so I'm gonna show you something. I have pre-prepped. So, every time now we write a feature, we open a pull request. Actually, I take that back. Firstly, what we do is we open an issue. We give it an issue that says, hey, I want it to do this. And what we actually do then is we make Claude write a full plan of what it's going to do back to the issue. Full plan, okay? Because me as a human in the loop, that's what I care about right there. I care about its plan. I care about its intention and what it needs, and I need to understand that the outcome of what it's going to build fulfills what I need it to do. Okay, we iterate on this plan a lot, and I really mean a lot. You'll see here, this one had 2 versions of it. This one down here, look, you see how many versions of this one? We have like 6 versions of the plan because I'm iterating until I find that it gives me the right outcome that it needs. When I get the right outcome that I need, I then tell it to implement the plan. But before it opens a pull request, I tell it, I need you to validate the changes that you have made against the plan and give me a full synopsis of where it has deviated. And we get that. That goes into our pull requests. And then in our pull requests, we do the following. So we open it up. We have our summary. We have what it's fixing, the list of changes, its comparison against the plan. But more importantly, Claude then reviews itself. It reviews itself according to the guidelines, the architecture that we have encoded in our repository, and it formulates it into blocking issues, analysis, changes, its design, etc., etc. And when it's happy, a second pass using the same tool, different context, it will then merge. Okay? That's how we work, that's how we drive, that's how we push stuff. I'm weird. So I have a Mac Mini at home, and I have an SSH agent on my phone, and I have Claude running in my Mac Mini at home, and I use Tailscale from my phone to kick off issues when they come in. That's how sad I am. I know. I get it. But like that's how, and then it pushes data up. I can read it on the fly. I can read it on the move. So the system, I'm continually able to push issues even when I'm away from my desk. So, any other questions? Oh. I feel so important. I usually have to bring my own.
Given how you're constraining models to work within much more regimented architectures and giving it so much more explicit instructions, have you found that you can actually downsize the models to use simpler ones, like, say, Sonnet versus Opus, that kind of?
Yeah, great question. How do you choose a model and how do you not? It took me a while to move to Opus, okay, not because of anything more in the fact that Sonnet had a 1 million token context window, and I hate compacting conversations. So it took me a while to get there. My team had to convince me that it was the right one for what we're doing because of its speed, its change, it's like doing. There's nothing in here right now. All of those skills that we are creating, they can run against, I was going to say something derogatory about open code. It's not what I meant. They can run against lesser models. They don't need to run against Claude. Okay, the Claude models, your mileage may vary, are by far the best for infrastructure. They're the best for coding. And like other models, of course, are great for writing and like for doing different things. So we found that we use Claude all the time based on that. And then it's just a matter of how up to date we need it to be. So, but you can like run, we had a beta user use Swamp, and they ran like a 1 billion context local model, and they got great results from it. They absolutely got great results. So, any other questions? All right, I think I have one that was still phoned in. Let's have a look. What about cost? Yes, we always get the question about cost. Okay, cost is a very interesting thing. Okay, if you don't give it guide rails, it will go crazy with tokens. It will absolutely go crazy with tokens. In the 2 weeks that we've been building this product for 5 people, okay, we have spent about $3,000 of tokens. Okay, that is nothing. For 5 people to be productive and build an entire tool in 2 weeks, that's incredible. Now I will let you in on a secret. Okay, the entire of their previous system initiative product took 6 years to build, and we had a team of 12 engineers building it. So for 2 weeks, $3,000, say $4,000 between friends, that's an incredible productivity boost. Okay? And it's because of what we do, our constraint, our flow, keeping it within like a specific guideline, within a specific architecture pattern, within a specific principle. So therefore, we're really able to control what it's actually doing for us. Now, you can spend tokens, you can enable fast mode, and it will churn through them, and you'll probably get another 10x increase. It doesn't matter. It's your choice. If you have money to burn, you have money to burn. I use a Pro Max subscription now, so it's $200 a month, and I'm, 3 days through the week, and I've only hit 15% of my usage for the week. And I am coding nonstop. I told you I have agents running at home at this moment in time, and it's still not going through tokens. So cost becomes what you constrain it to do. Listen, I'm out of time. If you want to talk more, come and find me. Thank you so much. I love coming back to speak to this group. I love coming back to the AWS group as well. Enjoy the rest of your day.